People are going to laugh at me because in the flower moon last night I had some really vivid, weird dreams. And one of them was meeting so-called Jesus, as what people say today. And it was weird because I was in a desert, we were sitting on a rock, and he literally, sat next to me on a rock. And we was looking out at this, beautiful desert. And I was like, okay, this is, really bizarre. So I thought to myself, okay, obviously if I'm here, I'm here. I said, are you Jesus? And he went, yes. He goes, you could just, and I just knew it. I just asked me, I'm not religious or anything like that, so don't fucking say anything. But yeah, so literally I'm sitting on the rock and I'm going, right, okay, then if you're Jesus, I said, I don't know quotes from the Bible or anything like that. And he goes, the Bible is the biggest set of lies to control people. They are not my true words or teachings. And I went, okay, what do you mean by words and teachings? He literally turned around to me and said, it's been so manipulated in my era that you cannot believe a single word of it, because I teach people to believe in themselves and discover themselves, because they have God within themselves. Every single person has God within themselves, and that the God that people think that they're praying to is not the true God. And I was like, okay, this is really bizarre. Then I turned around to him and I said, how do you know this? He goes, because I was just a revolutionary man, as type of thing, as he said. And I was like, okay. He said, I do not want people to surrender their power to me. I said, what do you mean surrender the power? He says, people say, oh, Jesus, I need your help. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. He says, you'd be surprised that I don't actually hardly do anything. He says, they do it themselves through the belief system that I bring to them. He said, in actual fact, I don't want them to believe in me as such. I want them to believe in themselves. I want them to believe who they are. Their belief is their key to unlocking the mysteries of life. And I went, okay. So I said, if you believe in yourself then, and tell yourself you can do this and everything, I said, then what would that technically make me more powerful than you? He turned around and said anybody can be more powerful than anybody. He says it's all about the belief. You've got to believe in yourself. And I was like, okay. So I said, what about all these books and everything? Because he says they're still hidden underground. He says the truth of me is hidden underground, and I practiced and learned everything I possibly could. And I said, what do you mean by everything? He said magic. He said healing, Reiki. He said I was technically, if I was here today, because I'd be classed as a psychic medium. And I went, a very interesting one. And then he turned around and literally now the dream's starting to fade out. And he says, I don't want people to surrender themselves to me. I want people to believe. I want people to know that their selves is just as powerful or even more powerful than what I can be. And I said, that's bloody interesting. That is really interesting. And then as the dream started fading out, I go, before you go, I've got some questions for you. And literally says, you better be quick. Now he feels like he's getting up and starting to gradually walk away. So I turned around and said, I know aliens are real. I said, I've seen them. I said, I know they are. And he started laughing his off and he went, of course. He said, they've been here for millions of years. And he said, and if you think they've only just recently been discovered, you're the biggest laughing stock of them all. And then he started laughing. He said, no offence. I said, no, that's absolutely fine. I said, I knew it. And then next thing you know, I turned around and said, are we being controlled by them? And he just nodded his head like this, smiled, and then drifted off. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, fucking, all this from a fucking flower moon? All this from a flower moon. I met Jesus in a dream when he didn't look nothing like they said he did. Obviously, I know he's not a white man. He was very tan. I'd probably say, look more, what would you say, Egyptian-y type of look to him. Very powerful. Did feel the very good energy. But he knew so much. It was like as if he was a fountain of knowledge of Reiki, healing, psychic, mediumship. And he was just like, anybody can be more powerful than me. And I was like, you know what? And he said, you've got to believe in yourself. And that was the biggest message that I got given last night in the flower moon, was that believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you're going to conquer anything that you want and anything you desire, as long as it's good. He did warn me about if you are selfish gains, you will get them, but there's always a paying consequence to selfish desires and hurting other people. He did quickly, I forgot to say, he did mention that karma. I did ask him, just as the dream was about to end, I went, "Is karma truly real?" He said yes, and karma is what you are not bound by, but like monitored by, what your karma is. And I was like, okay, very interesting, because the universe works in that way. And I was like, very interesting, very, very interesting. But I thought I'd share it, and even if it's bollocks from a dream or whatever, but it generally felt real to me, as if I was not even dreaming. From the flower moon last night, I am not joking you, that was like tripping balls.